You want to have the weekends with your kids. You don't want to be in the store all the time, 7 days a week. You don't want to give up your free time. You like, going to your kids' sporting events. There's nothing wrong with that, but get really fucking clear on what it is that you want before you start comparing yourself to what everyone else has, because the grass is not always greener. And if you want something bad enough, you can achieve it, but don't tell yourself that you want this when you don't want to do what it takes to get that.
Welcome back to Experible. In this show, we learn from the success and struggles of the people we admire, dive deep into concepts, tools, and practices relevant to developing a strong character, a healthy mindset, and the emotional weaponry that allows us to live by design and even on really bad days, love what we see in the mirror. Today, I am talking to Christina Lecuyer, voted one of the top confidence coaches in 2020, former professional golfer and TV host. Christina now works with a massive list of clientele from around the world, including entrepreneurs, coaches, and Wallstreet CEOs. After years of battling low self-confidence and eating disorder, Christina was able to turn her life around to build her dream life and a multi-six-figure business. So as part of the conversation, we dive deep into Christina's journey from being a golf pro to becoming a confidence coach, what it takes to build a successful business, and what are some of the key things that someone starting out in the world of digital entrepreneurship needs to be mindful of. And with both faith and hard work playing such a crucial role in Christina's success, I also asked her about which one of those two elements contributed the most to her success. We, of course, also talked about the perspective and the mindset to maintain as the failures and the rejections pour in, and how to go through this journey with your ego firmly in the backseat. If you have big ambitions and ideas, but you are struggling to build your business, or maybe you have yet to take your first step, this conversation is for you. So let's dive in.
Thank you so much, Christina, for making time for this interview. So glad to have you here. Let's dive into the deep end. I know you went from being a golf pro to a confidence coach, which was quite the transition, right? Quite the change. And I know I've read in a lot of your content that you felt very out of alignment. You didn't feel like things were quite right in your life. What was that like? Because I know a lot of people experience this sense of restlessness and they don't really know how to pin it down, how to understand it, or even how to act on it. So what was that transition like? What is it like when you feel out of alignment? How do you recognize it for what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's like almost like this still small voice inside of you when you're out of alignment. Things feel very hard. I think that oftentimes people feel like what they're doing doesn't make an impact. What they're doing isn't fun. What they're doing isn't what they truly want to be doing. I talk a lot about people shoulding on themselves all the time. Like, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, whether it comes from family, friends, the culture, whatever it is. I mean, oftentimes so many people think that they should be doing something that feels very out of alignment. And if there's been no one ahead of you that has ever done something different, it's hard to do something different. And that's the reason why I think it's very helpful, nowadays with the internet. I mean, my God, you and I are in two different continents, for crying out loud, and we're able to connect. So it's so easy for people to now be able to kind of look at other situations and go, oh my gosh, like, there is someone doing what I want to do. Or my gosh, there is someone who's done something different and had a lot of success. So I think it's very helpful nowadays with obviously with the internet for us to be able to see that, like, yes, we can do something different.
What was it like when you made that transition?
Yeah. So basically, I was playing professional golf, and at the time, I started hosting corporate and charity golf events. So companies and charities and corporations used to hire me to play golf with executives. And the reason why they did that is because I called it the trifecta, which is kind of funny. I looked a certain way, I could communicate a certain way, and I played golf a certain way. But I think what I did on the golf course that I did probably better than most people is I was able to connect with other humans on any level. I think at the end of the day, I called myself a human connection expert, because at the end of the day, if you can connect with someone on a human level, you and we don't know each other. We live in two different worlds, but if you and I can connect on a human level, we'll have a connection. And I was really, really good at that. And companies hired me over and over and over again because their clients had a great experience it just happened to be that we were doing it on the golf course or at dinner after golf or whatever it is. And when you get to spend 5 hours with someone on a golf course, you really get to know them. It's really hard to lie for 5 straight hours on the golf course. So you really get to know who someone is. So I learned a lot from the people that I was playing with. And a lot of the people that I was playing with were very successful in business. And I picked up a few things that most successful business people had. I was constantly a sponge. Like I was getting paid to learn from very successful humans. And so I figured out along the line that, you know what, I enjoyed the human connection expert much more than I actually enjoyed the golf. The golf was just a vehicle to allow me to really figure out that that's the part that I really loved. And so I transitioned, I was playing professional golf. Then I transitioned to the corporate stuff. And then I was just sick and tired. I was in a really bad place. I didn't feel like I had a purpose. I didn't like what I was doing. I had a horrible eating disorder. I was miserable. And I just decided that I was no longer going to chase golf, because I chased golf because everyone told me that golf was what was going to make me happy. Golf was what was going to make me successful. Right. It was going to make me famous. It was going to make me money. But what I come to find out is that the golf part of it had nothing to do with what I actually loved. And so when I started working on myself, I dove in heavily to self-development. I was kind of at my rock bottom when I was 27, 28 years old. And at that time, I was doing the corporate golf events, but I was like, I have to do something different. I have to figure out how to be happy. I have to figure out what fulfills me. And I knew that being around successful people, I knew learning the way that these people think was something that I was super interested in. So one of my mentors at the time, he was a golf instructor, but really he became a personal mentor of mine. He really started infusing in me that my confidence was the thing that was making me successful on the golf course and off the golf course. And so I started really kind of tapping into self-development. I started tapping into the fact that I had no idea. I didn't grow up with parents who taught me the power of your thoughts, the power of positive thinking, that your thoughts create your reality. I had no fucking clue. I just showed up to life. And so I started becoming obsessed with training my mind. I started becoming obsessed with oh my gosh, the way that I think controls my reality. And so for 5 or 6 years, I just dove into self-development. I was still doing the golf stuff, but slowly but surely my life was changing, and the people around me were noticing I was much more confident. I was much more happy. I was getting paid a lot more money because I was confident enough to command my worth. Back in the day, 6 years ago, when I first started, I created a course called Commanding Your Worth, because I wanted women to be confident enough to charge what they were worth. And a lot of times, right, and this isn't only women, men do this too, but women in general, especially when you're selling a product or a service, women always kind of negotiate. They don't feel super confident in charging a certain price. And so I created a course in the beginning about commanding your worth. And that kind of slowly but surely turned into group programs and one-on-one programs. And now I just do one-on-one coaching. But it was a slow transition. I never set out to create a business. I set out to change my life, to figure out how to be happy. And then slowly but surely, a lot of people started coming to me and being like, hey, how are you so confident? How do you charge that amount of money? And then my business organically grew over the years. So that's kind of how I went from golf to the way I am today.
That's quite the journey. And there's so much to learn from there. The one thing I would love to know is, how do you go from letting other people direct your life for you, letting other people tell you what is right for you, to suddenly making your own choices? Because that is quite a switch.
No, absolutely not. Because, a lot of it comes into, you don't want to disappoint people around you. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't trust themselves. From a young age, whether your parents are amazing or not, a lot of people have told you how you should think or what you should do. And it becomes kind of ingrained into you. That little voice inside of you is like, well, this is what I should be doing. This is what my parents tell me to do. This is what everyone else is around me is doing. Mm-hmm. But I believe it's really getting clear on listening to that still small voice inside of you. As a coach, I tell people all the time, I don't tell anyone what to do. I help them get clear on what they need to do. Every single person on this planet knows what they need to do, but a lot of people are not either confident enough or clear enough to trust that still voice inside of themselves. So I think that that's probably the biggest thing is the the fact that like I was able to understand that like I had a bigger purpose, something that like made me so excited. You know, I'm talking to you at 5:30 in the afternoon and I never work this late, but I'm fired up because this is what is on my soul. This is what I would do for free. This is what I do all day long. I love what I get to do. And I started trusting what made me excited, what spiked my voice with excitement, what injustice did I see in the world. You know, I always think that those three things are pretty big. Like, what gets you excited? What could you talk about all day? And what injustice do you see in the world? I hated when I saw women, especially in the beginning, not being confident in themselves or the value that they provided or what they wanted to do in this world. And they let other people dictate what they were going to do because they should be doing it. And so I just became super passionate about encouraging people to like do the thing that they know that they want to do. Every single person has that inside of you. And your job is to really clearly figure out what that is and live that out.
Do you think it has something to do with like shifting your focus off of like shifting your focus away from external validation and focusing on what feels good to you? And if that is like, I believe that is an important part of it. I don't know what your experience has been. If that is so important, how do people do that? Because the world we live in, social media is such an invasive part of everyone's life, and the social media is kind of set up in a way. In fact, all of marketing is set up in a way it is to sort of encourage feelings of comparison, feelings of this need to be better than everyone else. So how do people carry that with them? Because to a certain extent it's unavoidable, and also I think encourages you to work harder, which is good, but carry that in a positive way, and also like do all the things that you said that need to be done for a person to be happy, for a person to be satisfied with what they're doing, like doing what is in alignment with your higher vision, or focusing more on what it is that you want. How do we do that in today's age?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is making sure you surround yourself with the right people who are going to hold you accountable. You know,
Right.
I have probably 30 something plus one-on-one clients right now. And I would tell you that probably 20 of those this week, we're going to talk about how to come back to what's true in alignment for you. You know, I've had a coach now for years who makes sure that I'm staying very much in alignment with what is best for me. You know, a perfect example is I am a one-on-one coach in this industry that I exist in. 90% of people will tell you what I do is wrong because it's very hard to scale to 7, 8 figures. For me, I could get it totally caught up in this person's doing that, that person's doing this person's doing that. I could totally compare myself and think what I am doing is failing. So I really am good about putting what I call stop losses in my life. I have things that are, help me put on the blinders. Of course, every once in a while, I feel like, oh gosh, am I doing it wrong? Or every once in a while, I feel like, oh gosh, maybe I should have done it the other way. But I have a really amazing support team that helps me get clear on like, okay, what are your priorities? You know, the three things that my three pillars that I coach on are decision, faith, and action. And for me, the faith part is like really enjoying the experience. I don't give a shit if any one of my clients are making 7, 8 figures and they're
Right.
absolutely miserable. I don't care if you have a blue check mark and 1 million followers. Your life is super short and I want you to enjoy the experience on the planet. I know that I know that I know that I know. For me, creating these big programs or, getting that blue check mark or creating courses or whatever it is out of alignment for me. So when I talk about the confidence and the clarity, that those are the two main things I really help people with. When a person is confident in what they're supposed to do, yes, you have moments where you feel like perhaps it's not going right or I should be doing this. But then it's coming back to like, no, what is the vision? What am I here to do? What lights me up the most? What kind of life do I truly want? I think that that's something that's very, very important. Most people think they want something, but the truth is they actually want something completely different. I was on a coaching call with a client of mine this morning and she's like, oh, this person scaled their business to like $5 million in 2 years. And I've been in business for 2.5 years. What's wrong with me? I go, there's nothing wrong with you, but you want to have the weekends with your kids. You don't want to be in the store all the time, 7 days a week. You don't want to give up your free time. You like, going to your kids' sporting events. There's nothing wrong with that. But get really fucking clear on what it is that you want before you start comparing yourself to what everyone else has, because the grass is not always greener. And if you want something bad enough, you can achieve it, but don't tell yourself that you want this when you don't want to do what it takes to get that.
Right. That is an incredible, very, very like true answer. True in the sense that this needs to be said and nobody's willing to say it because
Oh, I say it all the time.
yeah, me too. Like, I feel like this needs to be said because there is this very strong self-love, self-care narrative and have it all narrative where manifestation and like all of these practices, the clever business tactics from people who have already made it, so are not quite in the trenches anymore. These formulas come from these people, and to me it's like, first of all, even if I could get to that place without putting in the work, I wouldn't want to, because without putting in the work, I wouldn't quite be the person worthy of that title, worthy of that reward. And at the same time, also, this is so dangerous because like when The Secret came out, people went crazy and they started following it to this extreme degree, but nobody told them that you also have to work. They completely missed that point.
This is, oh my God, yes, this is 100% it. Like, I promise you, I say all the time, it's decision, faith, and action. So like the faith part is like the woo manifestation, like the fun part, which I'm totally all about. Like, I don't want you to hate your experience.
Yeah.
The decision is like burn the bridges. Everyone says all the time, oh, I made a decision, but did you truly make a decision? Like, did you go all in, burn the bridges, all the things? But the last part, you're bang on, girlfriend. It's the action part.
Yeah.
You cannot sit on your fucking couch and expect to create $1 million business.
Yeah.
No one has done it before, like manifesting it. It's part of it, but there's so much action that has to be taken there. And I want you to enjoy the experience. There is going to be times where it sucks, but overall, you can create a life, you can create a business that you enjoy the process really when your mindset's on lock.
Yeah, that's lovely. Let me ask you, what does that process look like for you? Like, I know apart from like teaching women or teaching your clients how to do this stuff, like do this process, what does that process look like for you in your life? You, as you go through your life, your personal life, and then you, as you're creating your coaching business, being there for your clients, what does that look like? Where does decision, faith, and action come in for you? And what do they look like on a daily basis?
Yeah, absolutely. So literally when I was like that 27, 28, I made the decision that I was no longer okay being miserable.
Right.
I knew that there was other people out there that had less than me. Like, I had a good life. I had like my husband now, but like my boyfriend, I was making 6 figures. Like, I had a modeling deal. Like, I had a good life, but I was not fucking happy. So I knew that there was other people that had less than me that were happy. How did they do it? I made the decision to go all in. I made the decision that I was going to figure out how to be happy no matter what. Burn the bridges. I put my ass on the line. Like, my very first coach was like $18,000. It wasn't a great investment, to be honest. Like, the actual coach wasn't that great. But the fact that I went all in at the time was huge. The fact that like I did anything and everything. I said no to, I did a live event in Austin years ago where I say, you know, and I don't know if you know who this is, but like George Strait is this big country singer and he's extremely famous. And a buddy of mine has like this private jet and he's like, I'll come pick you up. We'll go play in Mexico at this golf tournament. I had to say no to that, because I was planning something for my business. Like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity that I had to say no to, because I wanted the grand scheme. I wanted the future more than I wanted that like little blip of fun in the moment. If I had said yes to that in the moment, I wouldn't have been able, and maybe I would have, maybe I wouldn't have, but like what I have today, I've had to sacrifice for. And you're absolutely right. When you are watching these, you know, even if it's like a 6-figure coach or an 8-figure, it doesn't really matter. The person who has success, they are telling you now from the perspective where they weren't fucking completely stressed out working all the time. You know, you can do it to where you don't have to burn yourself completely out. And that's the reason why I'm a big proponent of coaching, is because we can help you like go quicker and faster. Like, hey, I made this mistake. here, let's go left here. I went right and it was a dumpster fire. So let's take you left
Right.
here. But that's why I think, it's helpful to have someone who's done what you want to do go ahead of you and support you along the way. But there's going to be a ton of work. Like I literally used to sit at my dining room table. I hired my little brother's girlfriend to be my assistant for like $15 an hour, where we used to sit at the kitchen table and figure out like what the course looked like, how to take photos in my house, what, like building a website.
Right.
I had to basically put it all together. I did everything in the beginning. I used to have an assistant at Christina Lecuyer email. Well, guess what? I'd answer those emails. Hey, email my assistant. And then I'd email back. Everyone has to do it. Now I have an amazing team and I'm super fortunate, but in the fucking beginning, I didn't.
Yeah.
And one thing that I did that, some people do have to do or don't have to do is I never quit my golf job before, until maybe fully quit until maybe 3 years into my business, because guess what? I needed money. I needed to be making money.
Yeah.
So I was side hustling this and going all in on it, but also still needed to create income in a different way. So I don't think, I think you're absolutely right in the fact that this industry makes you think that it's all manifestation sitting on the couch and no one takes massive action. It's always make a decision, burn the bridges, have the faith that it's supposed to be for you, that things are happening for you. When it feels like you're failing, there's a reason for it. If you wanted something to happen so badly, believe that it's happening for you. And then the massive amount of action.
Yeah. So tell me something, when you are putting in all of this action, you're pouring your heart and soul into it essentially. Then when the rejections pour in, when things don't go quite your way, even though you thought through the process, you were really careful with how you did things. But despite that, when things don't go your way, how do you manage those moments?
Yeah, those things still happen. Those things happen on a weekly basis. I think everyone thinks when you get to a certain level of success that those things are going to go away. They never go away. I hate to tell you, it doesn't matter how much money you have, how much success you have, those things never go away. And so I think you understand that they're going to happen. You don't take them as personal. You understand that okay, maybe it wasn't supposed to be right now, or you learn how to obviously we talk a lot about objections, talking through objections with people. Most of the time it's never about me. It's about the other person. So I am able to disassociate myself from it. But there's been certain things that I was gosh, I really wanted that. But I think, me having my faith, for me, faith is God, but for my clients, I don't really care what it is. But for me, I trust that, okay, Christina, you wanted this super bad and you don't know why it's happening, but you have to have the trust that, okay, there's a reason and a purpose, and maybe it's not right now, maybe it's something better. And I think for me, that's so important to me and my clients, because that part allows this experience of life and business to be easier and to enjoy it more when I can go, okay, that really sucked. And maybe I'll cry, maybe I'll scream, and maybe I'll be mad for 2 days. But I can get through it quicker when I know that it's happening for me.
Yeah, I love that. You allow yourself to have your moment and wallow if you need that, but then you keep moving forward. I wonder if you'll agree with me, because I've always believed that the assessment of whether you are in alignment now with the shifts that you've made or not is to figure out whether your bad day in this new life feels good to you. Because even on a really shitty day, doing what I do now, I love it. I'm still lit up. I may be in emotional pain. I may be going through something that's just horrible, and I'm hoping that it will end soon. But I would still not be anywhere else than where I am. Do you agree with
100%.
that?
Oh, I totally agree with that. I think that there's a quote out there that says, you used to pray for this bad day. So there used to be a time where I prayed for this bad day, where, I felt like my bad day today may be not getting this $10,000 client or not getting this massive podcast, but there was a day where I prayed to have that problem. And so I think that
Right.
that's fantastic that you think about it in that way too. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't do anything else. There's going to be hard days. Even, I remember a mentor of mine said, would you rather have a bad day doing what you love, or would you rather have a good day doing something that you hate? And I would rather have a bad day doing something that I love that's so in
Yeah.
alignment with what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, wonderful. There's something else like that I feel that gets in the way here is when your focus is really on the money. I think that might trip you up. But how do you build a business without focusing on the money, right? So, like, even on your website, when you promote your services, and when most coaches promote their services, we talk about helping people get 6 figure, 7 figure clients, helping them build that kind of business. So we also encourage people to focus on the money. But do you ever feel like that creates a lot of stress? Or do you ever feel like that sort of outsources the motivation? And putting that all of that aside, even if you are like hooking in a client with the focus firmly on the money, then how do you have them walk the path of clarity, walk the path of alignment without all of that stress also muscling in? How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I don't know if there's like one answer that fits every
Right.
box. I always try to be very, like, very transparent about my
Mm-hmm.
situation. My situation is, I'm 40 years old. I've had success in my life. My husband's successful. I don't have children. I am not working to literally put food on my table.
Right.
I'm obsessed with what I get to do. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, don't get me wrong. I love money and I love the opportunities that money brings. To me,
Yeah.
money is a sense of freedom. And
Right.
I'm very much wanting my clients to, make a lot of it. And I want to as well. But I also understand too that like there's a big difference between my energy and the energy of someone who like is literally trying to feed their children. And I want to
Right.
always be extremely transparent about that. It does make it easier when it's not a life or death situation. There's no doubt about it. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't know if a person's starting, a business with the like mindset of, oh my God, this has to work.
Yeah.
It's a both and, it's both. It's probably going to work because they have no other option.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be one of the worst experiences ever because they have no other option.
Yeah.
So, it's a little bit of both. But I also think too that like it's so much easier to focus in. Like I promise you, probably for the last 3 years, I've never thought about money. Never thought about money. The
Right.
only thing I have to think about is doing a fantastic job and serving my clients at the highest level. If I do that, money will come in. There is zero doubt about it. If I show up as the best coach I possibly can and I give the highest
Mm-hmm.
level
Mm-hmm.
of expertise and I serve them at the highest level, I never have to worry about money. So it becomes like that. But I'm not telling you in the beginning when the money wasn't coming in. My first 2 years of business, I've been very transparent. For 2 years, I spent more than I made in my
Mm-hmm.
business.
Mm-hmm.
It was really
Yeah.
on year 3 that we made, more than we spent and 6 figures and beyond. But yeah, there's a point in time. And I think this online space is very difficult because, if you were to open a brick and mortar store,
Mm-hmm.
you would have probably had to go out and get a loan and you'd be paying back the loan and you probably wouldn't be extremely profitable for a couple of years. But I think the online space tricks everyone to say, oh yeah, you should be making 6 figures in 6 months and you should have like
Yeah.
no problems. You know what I mean? And it makes a lot of people feel like they're failing because it's bullshit. Like most of it is bullshit.
Right. Okay. So now, for people who want to aim at the 6 figure, having heard your answer, they still want to aim. They're just starting out. They want to aim at the 6 figure, the 7 figure. It's up on their vision board. What would you say to them? Like, what is the mindset they should maintain, considering they're so new to the industry, considering how competitive it is? What would you say to them?
I'd say making 6 figures, like your first 100,000 actually isn't that hard. If you
Okay.
actually, because I think everything is math. So
Mm-hmm.
if you think about your first 6 figures, that's like, we're talking like, what is that? $8,000 a month. Let's just say it's $8,000 a month. What is that? 96,000, $8,000 a month. if you have 8 people that you charge $1,000, or if you have 4 people that you charge $2,000, or if you have, 400 people that you charge $100, whatever it is, like it's really very granular when it comes down to math in the beginning. You don't have to have this massive amount of people. Like if you literally had one skill that you were really, really fantastic at, and you found 4 people to pay you $2,000 a month, you're really close to your $100,000 a year. And I think so many people get so overwhelmed with doing all of the things, and they don't get really clear on the one thing that they can do where they can charge that $2,000 a month or whatever it is for 4 people. Maybe those 4 people don't stay with you for a full year. Maybe it's 8 people over the course of a full year. But when you really think about it, that's how you can make your first $100,000. So I would pick one thing, get really friggin' good at it, and do that one thing over and over and over until you want to scale to do something else.
Right. Okay. So you are someone who puts more focus on the action and less on the faith. Now, if someone does the math and realizes that, okay, you know what, I don't have money to invest in the business, which means I can't exactly hire people. I'm also very new to the field, so I have not established credibility as my brand is extremely new. People don't know me. And I want to make X amount of money, which is a huge amount this year. Like I'm desperate and hungry for it. I'm putting it on my vision board. But when I do the math, like what Christina is telling me to do, where as I do the math, I realize I don't actually know how to get to those numbers. Because, if you want to secure 5 clients a month, maybe, you need to do, like, there is some work that has to be done, that you have to have a way of reaching these people. And if you are completely new, I'm not sure if it can be completely organic. Like 5 clients a month, if you want to book them.
I think 100% it can be completely organic. I think most people probably have a small enough circle to be so completely organic that they could do one thing. So the very first thing you have to do is you have to figure, if you're going to be like a service-based business, you have to figure out the one thing that you're so passionate about that you're really friggin' good at. Like, let's say you love podcasts. Let's use this as an example.
Right.
You love podcasts. You love editing podcasts. You think you're so damn good at it. You literally become the best damn podcast editor that's possibly imagined. Then you start reaching out to people that you know that might have a podcast. Then you go and you clip free podcasts for them, for like you send them an email and you say, hey, listen, I would love to send you over a podcast. This is what I clip, totally free. I'd love to like share with you what we're doing. You can organically find someone to say yes to you for the first time if you're willing to put in the action and you're willing to do the work and you're willing to hustle. Those initial, like I help clients all the time in the initial part. Like when you're scaling, like if you need to get 1,000 people, that's a different strategy. The thing that I coach most on is mindset and strategy, because it's always that, whether you're making $1 or $100 million. But the initial setup, very, very simple. Go to people that you know, go to the 100 people that you follow, add so much value to a person that they can't say no to you. You'll make your first dollar.
Okay. See, that's a plan. That's an effective, a good plan. I'll give you that. But for someone who's completely new, who's bound to make mistakes, because that is going to happen 100%, you take that into account. You take into account how high they're aiming. You take into account the fuck ton of work that needs to go into it. My question is, do you tell that person, by all means, go ahead, put that massive goal on your vision board, dream big, I want that for you? Or you tell them, here, that's great, put that on your vision board, but here's how things could possibly go. Here's the worst case scenario. Please also take that on board.
Yeah, it's both. Always both and. So it's both. You can dream up here. Sure, knock yourself out. Dream up here. But what is your tangible, small, incremental goal to get there? A lot of people like, oh, I want $1 million business. Okay, how do you get to $1 million? Buy your first dollar. Buy your first $100. Buy your first $1,000. Buy your first $100,000. So if you don't know how to get to 100,000, dreaming for $1 million is great, but you have to have the strategy and you have to have the mindset to go for this. It's the incremental goal. So in my opinion, it's both and.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm glad you said that because I think it's great to dream big, but at the same time, I don't want your dream to blow like, or not blow up in your face, but like go in a direction where you are frustrated and then give up completely, because I've seen that happen way too many times and it's very frustrating and it's hard to talk people off that ledge, because when your heart is broken, it's so easy in that moment to completely drown in your sorrow and just be like, okay, you know what, this is not for me, let me just go back to my 9 to 5, that was way better and more secure.
100%. That's 90% of people do that. People who've worked with me, they'll quit. Be like, and I'm not like, I am the coach who tells you, yes, a big percentage of my clients have a ton of success,
Hmm.
but an also big percentage of people who've worked with me decide that it's no longer for them. And it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. It doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean I'm a bad coach. It doesn't mean I'm a good coach. It doesn't mean anything about them. You know, some people are cut out for this and some people aren't. And you have to know your why behind it.
yeah,
And you also like going back to what we talked about in the beginning, you have to figure out how to get over those imposter syndromes quicker. You have to
yeah,
figure out that like you're not failing, you're just learning. Like you have to be willing to play the long game. Like
yeah,
no one successful has the overnight successes are like 0.00001. And then also too, is it sustainable?
yeah. That's so true. And taking that like one step forward, have you ever had like clients wherein you feel like they're lying to themselves? Because I've had experiences like that. And it's very like it is a conversational what do you call that, landmine, because you have to be so careful and not trigger that person or get their back up, wherein you feel like, because there is this narrative out there wherein you're like, don't focus on the money, focus on self elevation, ascension, and that sort of thing. People think that is what the nicer people do, the nicer, more sort of people who are more connected with the divine energy don't care about the money.
I don't even
I'm
know what the
extremely
hell that means
religious.
90% of the time.
So true.
I've
But
seen
I
it
find
online
this
and I'm like, I'm so stupid because I have no idea what these people are even fucking talking about. I don't even know what 5D universe bullshit is. Like, I have no
right,
fucking clue. Like, I
for
am
sure.
obviously not that smart. But people buy it because you want to know why they buy it?
Yeah.
They buy it because it's so much easier than doing what I'm talking about. It's so
Yes.
much easier to buy that than to actually buy the coach who's like, okay, how are we going to create the strategy and the action and the faith that's going to work?
Yeah.
Like that is so much easier to go, oh, there must be this dimension that I don't
Yeah.
fucking know about. Bitch, it doesn't exist. That's why you don't know
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. This is very interesting because I see that sometimes I would meet people, or and it's so much worse when it's a client because then you kind of you're booked in. I This is one of the reasons why I started doing like longer inquiry calls, so I can make sure that this person is even ready for coaching, where I would like
Yeah.
meet people and this person comes into the room, brings their ego with them. And the ego is like the third entity in the room, and you can clearly see that this person wants the life or maybe they've been on my feed, and even though I rarely share anything about my personal life, but I would share maybe just enough for someone to know what's going on, and they would talk about all the travel I do, they would talk about maybe someday something I posted which made my life look fancier probably than it is. I'm a very simple person, but whatever. And I can see in their eyes that they want that for themselves. But then they're talking about all of this spiritual stuff and talking themselves away from the material goals. And I'm like, there is just so much friction in what this person consciously wants and what they are, the narrative that is being fed to them on a subconscious level. How do you navigate those conversations and bring them to a place where they have more clarity, but that clarity is also very jarring because it shows them a reality that's very different from what they've believed so far?
I mean, there's just so many ways that I can take that, but like, I really truly just believe that like sometimes people just have to learn hard lessons. Like sometimes people just have to learn a
Right.
hard lesson and learn that like the easy route, like that easy button, it just doesn't exist. There's ways to make things easier,
Right.
and there's ways to like enjoy the experience more. But
Hmm.
like to think that there is like something, I think this is like what you're trying to say is that like most people believe there's a secret that they don't know that's going to get them this life and business. And if they invest in this coach or this program, they're going to learn the secret, and then there too are going to have this easy button life. Then they do it and they figure out like, oh shit, I must not have it made, or I must not be like the coach in order to have that life. So maybe just let me quit. But the problem is that perhaps that coach is selling something that doesn't fucking actually exist. You know, like
Right.
I want my clients to know, like, yes, I am maybe a couple steps ahead of them, but like I want my clients to know I have bad days. I feel like I'm failing sometimes. I have a coach. I have a therapist. I lose money. I have client problems. You know, like I'm very open about it because I don't want anyone to think that like I have something that they don't fucking have. I'm
Yeah.
never selling that. I'm selling, we're in this partnership together. And if you make way more money than me, amazing. I literally just want you to live out your purpose and make a profit and feel confident and clear in what your vision is for this life that you have. Like something that I'm really, really good at is I know life is short. And I want everyone to really experience it really like to the fullest. And I'm very, very passionate about that. And a lot of times that does require a lot amount of money or a good amount of money. Like
Hmm.
I understand that. But I also want you to enjoy the experience of life
Yeah.
more than just make money.
Yeah, awesome. I love that answer. So, would you say, like, to the listeners, is this like you giving them permission that it's okay to be obsessed with money? I mean, yeah, external validation and focusing too much on it can be dangerous. And money, I think, to a certain extent, is about external validation, but it's also so much more about freedom. So, would you give them the permission that yes, be obsessed with money, be obsessed with the numbers, the material goals, and it's okay to go all in, and that does not mean that you're walking completely away from a spiritual path. There is a way to like have both.
Oh my God, absolutely. I never grew up in like a traditional church environment.
Yeah.
I always say that God and I are close, but it's my connection, it's my relationship with God. So I
Hmm.
never came like from the brainwashed mentality that like having financial abundance is like ungodly. Like
Right.
I know some people believe that. I fucking don't. But if for your listeners, if they've never read a book called The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, it's one of my absolute favorite books. And we talk
Right.
in that book, it talks about how money is typically four things for people. It's either status, security, freedom, or experience. And most people kind of fall into one or the other. For me,
Right.
100% money is experience and freedom. Those are my two biggest ones. I could give a shit about my
Yeah.
status. I could give a shit about security because for
Agreed.
me, I believe that I have enough confidence in myself that I can always trust myself to make money. Like I am confident
Right.
as hell that I can always trust myself to show up. So money to me is like freedom, my experiences. Like I love living life. So that's
Yeah.
what money does for me. So I don't really focus on the money. I just focus on if I do a really good job and I serve my clients to the highest level, then I'm going to be able to have all the experiences I ever wanted.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. That's a very healthy perspective to maintain. I think it's very necessary, especially when your goals are very challenging and they push you in ways that sort of compel you to discover unexplored mental territories and like physical territories as well, so far as your business is concerned. I think that is a the perspective you need as you walk that path. I'm also very fascinated by like people who have success by their routines. So tell me something about like the daily rituals that you observe that allow you to bring a degree of success, productivity, focus to your life on a daily basis.
Yeah, so I always say that like motivation is kind of bullshit. Yeah, I do motivational Monday videos and things like that, but motivation is kind of bullshit. I've really just created habits and a lifestyle. Like I literally have, like I just do things because they're such habit. Like I post every single day on social
Right.
media. I do my daily devotional. I work out 9 times out of 10. I go for a walk almost every single solitary day for 3.5 years. Like
Right.
I drink gallons of water in a day. It's the habits that I created. Am I motivated? No. Like, I just do it because I have the habit. So I think the main thing for me, honestly, since I literally am on calls with clients all day long, the one habit that I have is that it's just truly like my most important one is I go for a walk every day. And for me, it's kind of like my meditation. It's my spiritual connection. It's my calming down. I am not, I'm not a good wife when I don't. I'm probably not a good coach when I don't. For me, it's just like it clears my head, and it's my connection to my source, God. It's my meditation.
Right. Amazing. Okay. What are your one-on-one sessions like? Please share that with my listeners so that they can get an understanding of what it's like to work with a coach. And also if they want to do something like that they'll get an idea of what that's like. And what are the elements you bring to your session?
Yeah, absolutely. So my whole coaching, my brand, which is Decide It's Your Turn, the brand is based on my 3 pillars, which is decision, faith, and action. I always believe that business and life is mindset and strategy. You're never going to do one without the other. I don't care if you're making $1 or you're making $100 million. It's always mindset and strategy, right? So on a coaching call with me, so my full-time clients get 3 calls a month. They get unlimited access to me on Voxer. So as a former professional golfer, I knew that I wasn't going to only need my coach like one time a week to ask questions.
Right.
I wanted to have access to my coach all the time, like good things, bad things, questions, comments, concerns. And so my clients get one-on-one access to me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because I want to be able to help them. I say it's a coaching relationship. You and I are in a relationship for 6 months,
right?
But every call is very different. Like sometimes we talk about strategy. Sometimes we talk about, personal. Sometimes we talk about like mindset stuff that's coming up week in and week out. It changes. The themes of all of my clients are very, very similar, but if you're having a dumpster fire in your personal life, sometimes the calls are heavily focused on that in order for you to be able to really get clear in business. And sometimes business is going, sometimes we need to create better strategies to make life easier at work, like SOPs, standard operating procedures. How do we scale this? Questions, how do we get better at that to give you more time in your personal life? It's always both and.
So let me ask you, if you were to uncover, we talked about spirituality and you very quickly you were like, okay, I'm not into that stuff, or maybe not too knowledgeable there. But if you were to uncover some like insane spiritual truth that blows apart how the world is set up, like the whole concept of how the world is set up, and if your clients were to find out about this, they would be pure chaos, but it's an essential truth you feel, would you tell your clients, would you tell the world about it if you thought it would lead to chaos?
A deep question. It's interesting because you think about the world in the last couple of years, and you think about how polarizing our world is, like especially here in the United States, left and right, COVID, not COVID, all of the things, everything is very polarizing. And I know my thought process on all of it, but the thing that I think I've done pretty well as a coach is I love my left, I love my right, I love my COVID, I love my non-COVID, I love my vaccine, my non-vaccine. I think that I've kind of been able to see both perspectives. I may not agree with it, but I can respect a person from that. So if I knew this truth, I could believe it, but I don't feel like it would be my responsibility. Kind of going back to like, as a coach, I say that it's not my job to tell anyone what to do. My job is to help them get the clarity for what is right for them. So I probably wouldn't say anything.
Wow. All right. It's I love that. See, this is one of the reasons why I'm asking these questions in every episode is sometimes I come up with such idiotic weird questions. Sometimes I come up with like the kind of question that I just asked you that's profound and deep. What emerges more often than not is the degree of conviction that my guest has. And this is what I want to
Yeah.
get across to people, like unique characteristics to these people that we admire. Like I invited you onto this show because I admire you. I admire how you do business. I admire how you are reaching out to your clients. So I want my listeners to be very observant of these characteristics, not just step one, step two, step three. Here's the formula, go out and do it. There's a reason why people, they follow the exact same strategy and still don't get success, because there is something there that's missing. I want my listeners to pay attention to that something and not just the dominant conversation. So this is my very direct way of handing it to them. Like, here, take this. So I
Do you
love
know
the
what you're
conviction you
saying?
have.
Do you know
Sorry?
what you're saying? You're saying that your clients or your listeners, they have to be clear and confident. It's the shit
Yes.
I talk about all day long.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is you just said that they have to have they have to see the conviction in me. It's
Yes.
not that you have to fall in love with the way I do things and the
Mm-hmm,
way
mm-hmm.
I see things. What has made me and my clients successful is the fact that I have fallen in love with the way that I am doing it. I am confident in the way that I am doing it. I am clear in the way that I am doing it. So
Yes.
your listeners have to understand, almost see through, like, it doesn't matter what I actually believe or what I do. The thing that has made me and my clients successful is the confidence and the clarity that I have in the way that
Yeah.
I do it. That is the quote unquote secret sauce.
Yes, yes. And I'll put that against the narratives, again, that is being fed to our generation, or not actually our generation, but to the next generation, because they're way more susceptible to it, is this whole thing about compassion, 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 softness, 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 and take it easy, go slow. And so this generation is growing up to be someone who wants absolute equality, to want absolute fairness, and to see the world wherein they're like, make space for everyone and not really have to fight for anything. And they're so busy considering everyone's perspective that they're not really understanding any perspective at all. You have to have
Amen.
conviction, and people are just so scared of it because they feel like, oh, I'll become a zealot or I'll become a fanatic. Well, maybe that's true. Then that's something you have to watch out for, and your people can help you with that. But at the same time, if you don't have it, well, nothing's gonna get done. And I'm so scared about that because I have a younger niece. Someday I'm gonna have a daughter, and what am I going to be telling them? Because they would rather listen to TikTok than to a real person, right?
Yeah, and again, I think that that's what comes down to, like, who you surround yourself with,
Yeah.
where you actually, and your children and your niece will be on the right path because, you have conviction, you work hard, you have
Yeah.
your own thoughts, you have your own decisions. I mean, the worst thing you can possibly do is have no opinion whatsoever. Like,
Yes.
I
Yes.
remember a long time ago, one of my mentors said to me, indecision is still a decision, and sitting on the fence, you're going to get splinters in your ass. So
Wow.
make a
Nice.
decision either way, decide it's your turn, make a decision. There's no wrong decision. The only decision is not making a decision.
Yeah. I love that. I love it. So yeah, this was such an incredible conversation, and I hope now my listeners are like, embrace the conviction, go for the money, and just do it with a lot of
Yes,
confidence. Strap a pair on, go for it.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christina. This was amazing.
So we've reached the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching and for sharing your time with me. You will find the links to the resources mentioned during the episode underneath this video. And if you would rather listen to these conversations, you can find the Experible podcast on most podcast platforms. If you enjoyed this conversation, or if you have something to add to it, please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to hear more such conversation, do subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. I will see you in the next video. Till then, take care of yourself. Bye.